In part 1, we followed a Rohingya family forced to flee their village in Myanmar when government soldiers and vigilantes went on a deadly rampage. In part 2, we pick up with the family as they struggle to adapt to refugee life, then meet some of the Rohingya militants who triggered the crisis. Dudu Mia and his family ran for their lives when Buddhist vigilantes attacked their farming village. Five days after fleeing on foot and by boat, they are safe in Bangladesh. The children are vaccinated for polio and measles. Then everyone climbs into a truck headed to the main refugee camps. Three hours later, the family is dropped off on the side of the road. A free meal is served and they're on their own. The address of a relative who escaped an earlier round of violence is all they have.
Order at the Gunjanari, angry Sata Uribia, Gulimarvella Idua, Bungra for the but Bungur for a matter of Natilo, Natigona, selling the Bungra for Zola, Muramura, Luata.
In the weeks since Rohingya insurgent group ARSA attacked government forces and ignited this crisis, the militants have declared a truce and gone quiet. It's no secret that many who survived now live among the refugees. We're just off the main road that runs through the camps, and there are two military checkpoints here and here. We're about to go speak with two ARSA members who were involved in the August 25 attacks.
Here, no zero, but that she's a paragori, to not tell you, Aragority in the Zulum Palta Green of Harrier. Ni Lodi Shura does a money, Zodior, Ara, Himot Guri, Mani, Gulli, Mani, Marina Hari. On the Vizota Mani Gulli, the Honum was no Marina Hari, and where it does Araki Gilamde. Mani Tiadi. Trahamula would remain thorough Jawudi and Ara Nizi.
Mohammed was shot twice as he ran from the military counterattack. Saifullah lost part of his hand to a rocket-propelled grenade. An ARSA officer in hiding agreed to speak with us about what went wrong.
Faratu point call fayo. Deshita point de desher hakalla ho yaro. Bad dash guri nafari zulumori. Yana ladase point de dase jamati omadalan nido. Ham guri wala ho. Nizar hak level la holi ho yaro. Jane mali dase lami gudi.
How did the attack backfire so catastrophically?
No, the hatiar dase bisha yara the trading divo ho ya hatiar bisha yara kayo. Sara the Senate, Ara hen hoya point what to Aratulama, Aradolian Kigori Mar, the Shatlat, the Suma Tara Bishi Guli Gorebar, Guli Maraver, Abadas, Beg das Deshi, Holatia Yashil Ki in the Kana Mamla, Ara Moriumen Goyara Hola, Sile, our no, Tara das Bishi, Goro Hurade launcher, Mara just a Bishi Maradara.
Thousands of Rohingya have been killed and more than 500,000 have fled the country. Do you feel any personal responsibility for what happened?
Lusanadiam Buzir, Ara Komzuriana Zira, Ara Lusanadiam Buzir. The Yanda se Dunia, the Haibala, Dunia, Buziari Walla, Arkanar Halat, Musalman, Handila Zulum Goretian, Dunia.
A lot of the Rohingya really hate ARSA because they feel like they provoked this catastrophe on their own people, most of whom have nothing to do with ARSA, who are simple villagers trying to survive in what was already a desperate situation for them. But I think it's really important for the world to understand that this is not a war. This is not a conflict between militants and the army. This is an army campaign against civilians, against villagers who are unarmed, who are not fighting back in any way.
Driving along the border one afternoon, we see fresh smoke across the river in Myanmar.
So this river behind me separates Bangladesh from Myanmar. 5 weeks after Myanmar army began their crackdown, there's still village fires being set in the distance. We just saw a helicopter circulating above one about 3 kilometers in that direction.
In the days after, thousands more refugees streamed into Bangladesh. Dudu Mia and his family are lucky to be alive. But the daily grind of surviving in a foreign land is setting in.
Zori bi jere ta hava gyana fon fugongor mugohorer ede nalai do fugongor gyagorer bijiyar yar do itanna
At a nearby health clinic, the family is given some basic medicine. Now they must find a better shelter.
ya nimika tai bala jaga sati ge era khattari tar no mushawar fugora khattari jaga goromla tai ne nimika tai bala ka jaga sati ge aaj jilo jamale akan jaga sati ge.
We now have a super camp which is being created. Completely unplanned. People are building their own huts wherever they find space. And it's a catastrophe in the making because as soon as a typhoon hits this camp or an epidemic like cholera hits this camp, people are going to die in massive numbers.
Are you concerned that given how desperate the conditions are here and have been, that this could breed radicalism in the long term?
We should be concerned by this population which feels completely abandoned by the world. You see a lot of mullahs arriving here from all over the world. We've seen them coming from Saudi and Australia and Turkey, really groups with a radical agenda who are trying to push these people into taking a more radical stance. If the mainstream world doesn't take up the plight of the Rohingya people, radicals and extremists will exploit their plight, and they will say, look, nobody cares about you. We're the only ones who can really help you.
Before leaving, we returned to the makeshift camp where we met Firuz, the 10-year-old orphan. But he's gone. Overnight, the Bangladesh military raised his camp to force new arrivals into existing camps. Unwanted at home and vulnerable in exile, the plight of the Rohingya has no end. That was part 2 of The Unwanted. Also be sure to check out our virtual reality documentary on the Rohingya crisis above. And please subscribe to AJ Plus for more documentaries like this.